I have seen a few men in their middle age living happily with their families while having an affair outside as well. It doesn't seem to me that they don't love their wives anymore, but they also seem to have feelings for the third party. Most of these guys are not bad people. In fact, they are quite decent people when I get to know them. This really fascinates me. Men, please help me understand. By the way, feel free to direct message me if you prefer not to speak in public. Thank you all for sharing your stories and your honest opinions. I really appreciate it. It's good to discuss this topic openly with many of you. No matter what happened in the past or what you might be experiencing now, I wish you all a happy, trusting, and loving relationship with someone you cherish. Story 1. Very happily married. Yes, the allure of having sex with someone else always exists. It is like many things in life. The idea of it is typically much better than the reality of it. I love my wife and have zero actual desire to cheat on her. That does not stop one from thinking or fantasizing about something else, though. I think there is a component to human nature that comes out especially when things are not perfect to project thoughts onto other people or things. The question is whether one controls their thoughts and emotions or not. Story 2. Married 29 years. Never interested in anyone else. Not only is my wife a great partner, but I can't imagine hurting her in any way, and certainly not like that. Story 3. I am about 2 months away from 10 years. My wife is easy to talk to if we have problems, and I am allergic to drama. We make life easy for each other. Story 4. I have not cheated or come close. I learned about certain things that neurotransmitter surge when I meet an attractive person is natural and temporary. It does not mean anything profound, but it is a warning sign to stay away. I have met attractive women who are interesting and fun to be around. I purposely keep my distance so that I don't go down the rabbit hole of desire. I had one masseuse a few years back who was very attractive, and I was feeling quite turned on. The conversation was more intimate than a typical massage conversation. So at the end, I left a big tip and never went back. I did not want to even come close to disaster. I occasionally meet women through work who are attractive and interesting. I keep it 100% professional, don't do anything with them one-on-one, and don't engage in any playful conversation. If there is a lure, I move away right away. I love my wife dearly and would never do anything to hurt her. She's my world, and I wouldn't jeopardize that by courting temptation. Story 5. I have been married for close to 34 years. We have a fantastic marriage. I have never once even entertained the idea of cheating on my wife. What kind of man would that make me to hurt the one I love the most? And for something I can get at home? That is just plain selfishness and self-centeredness. I would never risk my family like that. Story 6. Married 19 years. I have never cheated or considered cheating. If I ever did cheat, my wife would never forgive me, let alone have me back. The same goes for her. Trust is very important to me, and without it, it would be game over for us. Story 7. Been with my wife for almost 25 years, married for 17. I never cheated and I never wanted to. As soon as things got really serious with my wife, I completely withdrew from the game, so to speak. I'm sure most guys will agree that pretty much everything they do is, in part at least, done to attract a woman or women. Some of us, myself included, find a partner and feel like we won. We don't need to keep playing the let's find a partner game. And we're also not part of the grass is always greener group either. Like I said, I completely shut down all aspects of myself that were trying to meet, attract, and hook up with women. I'm completely oblivious to whether or not other women find me attractive or are otherwise flirting with me. I may not always be happy being married, but I'm always content with it. For the type of person I am, contentment is good enough. I wouldn't do a thing to change it or ruin it like having an affair. Finding my wife was enough of a pain. Keeping her engaged and interested can also be a challenge. Why would I want to do it all over again, but on hard mode by finding someone to have an affair with, which would become even more of a pain in the ass if I was caught. I can't possibly imagine the kind of trouble I'd have to go through as a married man out there looking for an affair partner. And then the sort of trouble I'd have to put up with juggling it all. I don't have that kind of time or energy. Story 8. Married 16 years. Not even remotely. My wife is my goddess, and even after all these years, she can still be too much for me in bed. I still regularly wear condoms just so I can last longer than 5 minutes. Even if we were having a dry spell, I respect her too much. Sex is very personal for me, so it's not something I would do with a stranger. If, heaven forbid, something were to happen to my wife, it would probably be years before I was physical with another woman, if ever. Story 9. Have you ever cheated? No. Wanted to cheat? No. Fell in love with someone else during the years? No. Having an affair outside as well. It doesn't seem to me that they don't love their wives anymore. You can't love and respect someone and cheat on them. Story 10. No, no, and no. I was lucky enough to fall in love with a fantastic woman who actually reciprocated. I'm not going to hurt her or let down my kids. Plus, cheating is hard. It takes far less effort just to be a decent, loyal husband. Story 11. I was married for 32 years before she decided to leave for someone else. I never cheated. I never wanted to cheat or fell in love with someone else. Sometimes I would feel an attraction to another woman. Whenever I felt that, I would avoid her on purpose. I would stay away from her until I got past it, or else I just never went around that person unless I absolutely had to. That way, it never turned into anything other than she's pretty or some harmless observation. Story 12. If someone is cheating on their wife, I'm sorry, they're not a good person. Outside of that, yeah, maybe they're decent, but you're still a terrible person if you cheat on your spouse. Story 13. The fantasy is just that, a fantasy. Other attractive women exist, and other women that I think are sexy exist. The desire to cheat or even entertain these urges is non-existent. Working full-time, along with social and family obligations, and maintaining your relationship is a round-the-clock job. Nurturing your relationship is a lot of work, but in a good way. You don't have time for another woman. Story 14. Most of these guys are not bad people. In fact, they are quite decent people when I get to know them. If you want permission to cheat on your spouse, you're not going to get it. Are those guys evil? Probably not. But anyone who cheats is not a good person. I don't care how well they can convince you of the opposite. There is nothing decent in breaking vows, lying, manipulating, and deceiving. It's pretty sad you don't see that. Story 15. 3 decades into my marriage. A few years ago, I started hanging around with a girl who I consider my true soulmate. I wouldn't let it get physical as much as I wanted it to, and it has now dissolved. The best decision I ever made was not to have sex with her because my conscience is clear, but it has been really difficult forgetting about her. Story 16. People will always want to have their cake and eat it too. The men who have affairs may still love their wives, but much less than they love themselves. Cheating is inherently selfish. They may feel justified in their actions despite how their marriage is going because their own feelings are far more important than anyone else's. Additionally, most of them think their plans are foolproof and that they won't get caught. People always get caught. Story 17. I haven't cheated and I never will. I love my wife to the moon and back. She's a good woman, and I respect her. But even if none of that were true, I wouldn't cheat. 2 reasons. 1, cheating is about you and a problem you have. Straying isn't going to fix it. 2, I did cheat as a young man on a girlfriend, not wife, exactly once, and I was appalled that I had done it. It's the worst way to find out you aren't really that committed to someone, but worse, I found out point 1 above. I had some issues to work out. And I have. Story 18. Haven't cheated and won't for several reasons. 1, I love my wife and am not interested in anyone else. 2, I am wildly attracted to her, more now than when we were teens. I am super down with her body, and I constantly feel like I'm restraining myself from mauling her like an amorous werewolf. 3, no sex is worth breaking up our family. 4, we're reasonably well off, and no sex is worth parting with millions in a divorce settlement. 5, a big one, if I'm honest, is that it's gross. I don't like touching public door handles, so touching a stranger's genitals seems revolting. 6, if I had the spare time to chase women, which I don't, I'd rather play video games. Story 19. I love my wife, happily married, no desire to cheat and never have. There is always a tendency to miss the thrill of the chase, of getting to know someone new, of discovering intimacy with someone new, and to miss the fun of flirting with someone not knowing whether or not they will reciprocate. There's also the pull of wondering what's out there. But dating and putting yourself out there is hard, and there are also a lot of terrible people out there. And most importantly of all, I love my wife and know the unimaginable pain it would bring, so any brief flicker of temptation is quickly extinguished. She gets me in a way that no one else ever has, far better than even my parents and best friends, and I can't imagine tackling the rest of my life without her. So while I allow my brain to wander from time to time, she has my heart, and that's not going to change as long as we're both alive. We've worked for years to build what we have, both with each other and externally, and the cost of losing all that would be far greater than anything gained by cheating. Story 20. 30 years married. Never cheated, never planned to. But I can say from experience that the years take their toll on a relationship. You all can correct me if my anecdotal findings don't match your own, but I've noted the following. Many men feel desire spontaneously and view sex as a way of staying connected to their partner. Many women feel desire responsively or contextually and require connection with their partner to be interested in sex. This feedback loop is guided by frequency, and the more mismatched the couple is in their views of frequency, the greater the loss of connection. To be in a honeymoon phase is to believe both parties feel the same way about desire, sex, connection, and frequency. Over time, one person's changing view on any of these items affects that previously established balance. And if the balance is offset long enough with no discernible means of right-setting on a level that both parties can agree to, people search for new solutions either inside or outside of the relationship. It's hard and it all takes work, but the stronger the connection, the more willingly you put in the effort. Story 21. You should be thinking about the risk factors when it comes to deciding to engage in another relationship during your marriage. Compare the value of your relationship with your wife to the potential with this other person. Honestly, if you can't stand your wife, just get divorced. The idea of enduring a terrible marriage for the sake of the family is outdated. You won't face public shame for leaving your wife. Story 22. Married 32 years and I have never had sex with another woman during that time. Some men can be with everyone in sight and then go home to their wife and kids like nothing happened. I am not that guy. What other people do is none of my business. Good for them. I am not a prude. I know a large portion of men and women are unfaithful. Good for them. It is not my thing. I am happy to be able to authentically look my wife and my grown adult children in the eye and know I have honored my promises to them. I am in an interesting situation. I was overweight, 300 pounds at 6 feet tall. When I was overweight, I was 100% invisible to women. A couple of years ago, I lost 100 pounds, and all of a sudden, and without my knowledge or intention, I changed into a mature dad I'd like to friend. I am not bragging, I don't even want it, but I'm kind of a trendy older man now. What's weird is I went from being invisible to being hit on often. I rarely even saw pretty women when I was overweight. Now they are everywhere and making it obvious they are available. It is what it is. What I find extremely weird is sometimes women will subtly hit on me when I am with my wife. What's my point? I wear a wedding ring and talk about my wife, and women will still hit on me all the time. Women just don't care. Men have to consider if he hits on a man's wife, that man could respond aggressively. Unlikely, but certainly possible. Women have no filter. It was disappointing to find out that so many women have no honor. Story 23. Any man who says he does not struggle with lust is lying. It is something we will deal with until we die. Having said that, when you get married, you choose to be with one person. You choose to forsake everyone else and choose your partner. And you do it every single day. That is what love is. It is a choice. Just last night, I told my wife, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So no, I do not entertain the idea of an extramarital affair, and the institution of marriage would be better overall if more men were resilient in being faithful. Otherwise, why say the vows and get married in the first place? Just my 2 cents. Story 24. 24 years with my wife. Since I have known her, I have had zero desire toward other women. So no, I have never cheated, and with zero effort. Even if I see an attractive woman and have sexual thoughts, they are all about my wife. Story 25. I am a woman and I have been in a polyamorous relationship before. Having been outside of this whole construct, cheating sucks and isn't right at all. But I think more people are non-monogamous than they'd like to admit, and there are those who are happy in their families and their affair. Should they have an affair though? Hell no. Story 26. Happily married 10 years, together for 12. I'm a simple man, and I'm happy to be completely honest, regardless of Reddit judgment. There are 4 main reasons I haven't cheated on my wife, despite opportunity. 1. We have kids. I'm not going to blow up the family. My wife works really hard to stay hot, fit, and attractive. Really hard. And I notice and appreciate the fact that she's hotter than almost all the other moms in our neighborhood. It's really unlikely that I'd have the opportunity to cheat on my wife with someone actually more attractive than her. I know what's out there. I'm not risking losing her when the alternatives are worse. We have sex 3 to 5 times a week and she doesn't phone it in. Mind-blowing sex, regular intimate activities, all of that. I'm not going to cheat when my wife is both hotter, available, and better in bed than any potential affair partner. I've had a good number of sexual partners, and I know what good sex and bad sex can be. The odds of any given woman being better than my wife are low. Again, I know what's out there. I'm not risking losing her when the alternatives are worse. We're swingers. We haven't in a while now because it lost a lot of its appeal, but we've both been with other people, group experiences, always in the same room. And again, it's almost never someone better than my wife. The main thing here is that it helps reaffirm that what I have is better than what I don't have. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. I don't feel existential dread from only being with one person for the rest of my life. There's no feeling that it is exciting because it's forbidden fruit. And it's not cheating because we communicate openly about it and only act with unanimous approval when we meet up with other couples.